Hi, my name is Sarah Edgman, and I am responding to the board meeting that was live streamed on the Kern High School District website. So I have my friend Emma Anderberg interviewing me as part of our discussion about the video that I watched.
So identify the district, location, approximate size, and grade level served.
It was the Kern High School District, which is located here in Bakersfield on Sundale Avenue. The district has 18 schools that they service, and there is a student population of 39,570 students in grades 9 through 12.
All right, so name the board president, the total number of elected board members.
The president's name is Philip Peters, and there are 5 total elected board members, including Mr. Peters.
Okay, can you explain how often they meet as a board?
They meet the first Monday of every month, typically. Sometimes there are some scheduling conflicts, but that's their typical schedule.
All right, so can you describe the types of business the board is required to address at each meeting?
They address issues such as items from the superintendent's office, business and educational services, innovative programs, instruction, and human resources issues.
All right, so what is the general format and the atmosphere in which the meeting was conducted?
The general atmosphere was formal. You know, they were all sitting up at the front, sort of a semicircle, and there was a podium in front of the audience for people who were asked to speak or, you know, had concerns or invited to speak in front of the board. The tone was pretty formal, and you know, everything was very regimented. If you were invited to speak, you had, you know, a certain number of minutes. I think you only had 3 minutes to explain your issue and you know, speak about your cause. And yeah, like I said, the atmosphere was very formal, but it was still kind of lighthearted. There were a couple of, you know, issues that were not super serious, but were just more kind of feel-good issues. About one of them in particular was the link crew from Miramonte High School was there with their advisor to present their involvement with, I think they called it, I wrote it down because I wanted to get it right, involvement about rewards, or no, to implement positive behavior expectations for students, and how they reward students, you know, about showing pride, and they really wanted to get the students involved. So the link crew came up with this idea about putting positive notes on students' lunch trays, and the response that they got from that was really meaningful for them, because the students really responded to it. They thought maybe it was going to be kind of cheesy, or like the kids would, you know, discount it or think it was stupid, but the kids really liked it, actually, and it made the link crew feel good, and they just were really excited that it like spread positivity throughout the whole campus. Like, kids were talking about it, and, you know, it became a pretty big deal that they were excited about. So that was one of the issues, that it was one of the first issues I looked at, but it was pretty cool.
All right, so what were your general impressions regarding the experience?
Well, that was a good experience. Like I said, it was the first one I looked at, so that one was fun to watch, and it was great to see the kids, you know, going to the board meeting and getting involved and sharing their experience, taking it really seriously. Then it kind of went into the board inviting, you know, members of the community up with concerns, and you know, one parent came in because she had a complaint about a campus police officer using excessive force on her son, and she went through the formal complaint process previously, and it wasn't addressed, and so she was there trying to, you know, use her voice to speak up, and they handled it, you know, appropriately. But it was kind of sad to hear that. And then another employee of Kern High School District, actually a gentleman that works at East High, was concerned because he's also formally submitted complaints about his concerns of health and safety for students at East Bakersfield High School. I think he works in athletics, the equipment, and so my impression regarding that, I mean, I didn't really know that the board meetings would include those kind of things. So what it kind of wrapped up with was a gentleman from, I wrote his name down too, Mr. Roman Aguilar, who's the director of alternative education, was coming in, and what he presented, which I thought is what board meetings typically consisted of, which were it was his annual continuation school report to the board. So it was very lengthy, and it used a lot of, you know, lot of jargon that even in our book we hadn't really really discussed. It was very specific, but anyway, that was very long. It was still interesting though, because I mean he was talking that he wanted to improve the positive, not energy, but the positive school environment, school climate at continuation schools that typically seem to be a little less than that. And he was really striving to find ways to make it a better climate on campus. So, but when he was addressing the board, it seemed like, I don't know, just seemed very formal and very, very specific. And, you know, I thought that that's normally what it was, but there were some other lighthearted things that were good to see.
Okay, so can you discuss agenda items you found important and or interesting?
I thought one of the first things that they talked about when they were actually discussing minutes from the previous board meeting, which I was excited to hear about, was the groundbreaking of the pool that's adjacent to the Independence High School campus. I know that had been talked about for years and years, and I was excited to hear that that was one thing that it's actually happening. That was really cool. Yeah, but really the agenda item that was probably most meaningful to me was the one I talked about with the kids at Miramonte about the positive reward, you know, system that they implemented with their link crew. I thought that was really, that made an impression. I liked that.
All right, so relate all board items and discussion points to the specific topics of this course and analyze their connection to the course text and discussions.
Well, I think it's hard to, you know, we've read so much in our book. I mean, from classroom management to the history of education and different philosophies. So not all of those concepts really apply to what I watched during this specific board meeting. But what it did relate to was, I don't remember the exact chapter, I don't have the syllabus in front of me, but when it really, I think it was choosing your school, like where you want to work. I don't remember the name of that chapter, it might have been chapter 7, about really explaining what boards do, what the Board of Education versus your district board does. This was a better, I mean, it really went into detail in the text explaining what those, you know, what those boards and how they function, but to actually see it implemented and see it in action was something I hadn't been exposed to before. And so it's a very formal process, and it sounds like the agendas are taken seriously, and having the community involvement was something that I, even just in reading the book, you can get more of a description of it, but to actually see it, you know, put into motion was, what gave me a better understanding of how it actually works. So they didn't really get into like, you know, law or anything like that. So, you know, or really funding. So during this meeting, they didn't really approach the funding issue very much, but you know, they did talk about everybody kind of wanting to be there for the betterment of kids, and I thought that was really great. And I know all of our chapters definitely go back to that. It's like doing what's the right thing for kids, and so I definitely saw that as a common theme throughout our book and throughout this meeting. So that was positive. And is that about it? Does that wrap it up?
We're good.
All right. Yay.